Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching DevRelCon Tokyo 2021. Speaker interview session is today. I'm today's host Taiji as a co-organizer of the conference. For the interview session, I'd like to introduce one of the awesome speakers and have chatting. It takes only 15 minutes. Please have fun. Today's guest is one of the keynote speakers, Carol Huang at Stripe. Please welcome Carol.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going lovely. It's a beautiful morning here in New York City, and I'm really excited
hmm
to talk to you guys.
Right, great. Now in the morning at your country, New York, right?
Yeah, I'm in New York City on the East
hmm
Coast of New York, so it's about 10:30 a.m. for me.
Okay, I see. By the way, I'm in Tokyo, so the now about almost midnight.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, well, thank you for doing it at this time.
No problem. And also, thank you for joining today. And we'd like to also say, thank you again for accepting a keynote speaker. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh, So
thank you
the
for
purpose,
asking me.
yeah, yeah. The purpose of this session is for the audiences to know you and for more people to be interested in your session of DevRelCon Tokyo 2021. At first, could you please introduce yourself, Carol?
Sure. So my name's Carol Huang. As I mentioned, I live in New York City. I'm really excited to be a part of DevRelCon. My day job is I'm a product marketing manager at Stripe, handling developers as a whole. So I do developer marketing. And what that means is that I work with internal product teams, our developer advocates, and other engineers to make sure that developers integrating Stripe have and can find everything they need to have the best integration and maintenance experience possible. Before this, I worked on community marketing at other dev tools and dev products companies like MongoDB. And then I worked with a number of tech startups to help them get their dev communities and sort of dev relations and dev advocacy up and running. Community is really my passion. So outside of this, I also participate in an entirely community run niche form of American folk singing and run a Slack for a community for people of color related to media analysis. So I'm excited to share a lot of the things that I've learned from working at Stripe in this past year with everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. You're the developer advocate, right? And so, how is the current situation for your activities under the COVID-19? Um, I think not only New York City, but also the any countries. Now we are under the crazy situation. So I think it's very hard to work anything. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a dev marketer and I work very closely with our dev advocacy team.
hmm
And that team really was spun out and created at Stripe in the middle of the pandemic for us in the US, so about mid time last year. And what we did was we pivoted very strongly to video. You know, everybody was doing that at that time, and we were fortunate that the head of our dev advocacy team had a strong background in sort of video production and sort of how to create the lighting, the green screen, the editing for everybody. So we actually sort of leaned really hard into our Stripe YouTube developers page and created a ton of content for that.
hmm
As things are maybe beginning to open up again, you know, we're still looking around the world and trying to see what that might look like in 2022. We are thinking about getting back to that, but in the meantime, we basically just went all in, all in on video. And it is like admittedly out of a lot of the DevRel content that you can create, you know, between samples and tutorials and blog posts, video is probably the thing that takes the most time and the most resources, but we were fortunate to be sort of positioned in the great place to really do a ton of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very useful to use any digital tools, including the video, the blogs, as you said that. So I also worked and involved in any communities. But also in Japan, we cannot have any events as in person. Usually they also DevRelCon Tokyo too. So we are using any digital tools to hold our events, conferences, meetups, any briefing
Yeah.
sessions or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
did a lot of online
Hmm.
calls, online roundtables. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's been great for having it be more accessible for everybody
Hmm.
across the world. I do want to
Hmm.
point that out, but I think everybody is missing in
Yeah,
person.
right, right, exactly. I think that we are luckily the possible to work as a mainly online and remote works, but lots of people cannot work as a remote as online, such as the kind of the essential workers or something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, entirely
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, next, I'd like to ask you about your talk. Your talk session title is Working Tightly with Deborah and the Marketing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Could you please introduce your session for the audiences? But please get about no spoilers.
Sure,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
So, as you mentioned, the talk title is Working Tightly Between Dev Marketing and DevRel. And kind of what this really is about is growing your community reach through a no silo approach to DevRel and Dev Marketing, and kind of how you build this relationship of trust between these two groups that sometimes can be a little bit at odds through shared goals and mutual commitments to developer enablement, because that's really what we're all trying to do, right? To give some background on me and our dev advocacy team, I joined Stripe about a year ago. And before this, I had only worked at companies who were maybe 1/10 the size of what Stripe is now. I wasn't used to having an entire team where the functions were broken out so much by role. At a smaller startup, as a lot of you probably know, the community manager, the dev relations person, and marketing might all be the same person, might be spread out across a couple of people. So here it was a little bit different to figure out how these very cross-functional teams can work together. I do want to cover what skills you need to identify in order to do dev marketing and kind of actually talk about what dev marketing even is and whether it exists, because a lot of people talk about that kind of being a myth, and why you should really care about it, and because there's kind of no point to you creating content if nobody gets to see it. So specifically, I'm going to go over how we work together to build trust, shared workflows, go-to-market launch plans for all of our DA content, and I'm especially going to cover, why you don't need necessarily a dedicated dev marketing person to do this. That's kind of a luxury at a lot of companies to have somebody fully focused on this. So really it's to identify what it would be good to think about to make sure you're maximizing your community reach, why you should care about all of this, and essentially how you can do this as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So, as you said, that community is a very important thing for developer advocacy, and the now you are involved in the mainly the community management or any kind of work. So, what do you think about the yeah, in like, in digital era, and now we are how should we accelerate community there with the newcomers? I mean the as on-site event, we can get the newcomer on the community easily, more than the digital events. I think because of the in-person event that we can talk the new with new person easily, more than the digital. But now digital is a kind of the in one case that one way communication, like a StreamYard, or if we use the Zoom, Teams, or WebEx, and some webcam tools, web meeting tools, and but mm, it's interactive, but the uh, at the same time, they can talk the one by one. I think so. It's very hard. The do you have any idea to solve this kind of situation that with the community?
Yes, this has been the question of everybody's mind for the past, year or more, right? It's how do you build community on something that isn't
Hmm.
really built for that yet? And I think, I certainly don't have the solution, but we've dealt with a lot of things with this. I've looked at a lot of conferences and what they've done. So before this,
Mhm.
before I worked at Stripe, I did a lot of events marketing. And so I did a lot of,
Mhm.
you know, the conference booth, the hallway track, the birds of a feather, all of those things. And the way that those bring people together is both
Mhm.
organically and inorganically, right? And so the organic part is the thing that's really hard to do in a
Mhm.
digital platform. So I've seen a couple of things that manage to emulate that in some way. You know,
Mhm.
one of those is the one that you'll see very often is just like the random breakout chat. And that, like,
Yeah.
I'd say has like a 50-50 chance of you actually meeting someone who's interesting to you. I'd say it's about the same thing as when you walk into the lunchroom at a conference and you sit down at a table where you don't know anybody. Most of the
Mhm.
time, you at least have spoken to somebody who's interesting, and about half the time maybe
Mhm.
you found someone who's actually useful to you through a job, through networking, for anything like that.
I
um,
see.
the other thing that I find has been like maybe a little bit more helpful is when you have an event going on is to have a kind of side space for people to
Mhm.
chat digitally, because then they can kind of keep a little bit more of that organic flow going, and you can have people just chatting to each other where they already have something to talk about. I
Mhm.
think the one thing that for me has worked for building community both across like my teammates and across different conferences is you really have a shared experience. That's why people feel like they've come together and they've bonded.
Mhm.
It's because they've experienced something together where they can talk to them about it and springboard off of that to potential other connections they might have down the line, where they can pick out somebody based on their username, and like if they've been okay to exchange contact information to go from there. I think a couple things like that that really sort of foster that engagement work. But again, I don't have a solution. This has been really hard for all of us.
Yeah.
It's hard because once you're in a Zoom with more than about 5 or 6 people, that's no
Mhm.
longer a conversation. You know, that's
That's
everybody else
exactly.
watching two people talk. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly, I think so. But as you said, that to use breakout room, is one of the best solution, I think. And from your description of your talk session, I think I think it's very important to build trust over the beyond the teams for us. That's why it's very important to break the silos. Uh, so I'm very interested in your session. By the way, is this from your experiences?
Yeah, this is entirely kind of just based on my
Yeah.
experiences. I'd say, you know, when you're giving a talk, talk about what you
Hmm.
know. And so for me, this is a lot of the fact that at a larger company in particular, but
Hmm.
just in general, like marketing and what you might call advocacy, like
Hmm.
sometimes have not opposite purposes, but they can sometimes feel like they're a little bit at odds, you know? Like sometimes the marketing person might feel like stuff comes out and they don't know about it and you can't
Hmm.
capitalize on it. And then maybe the content creator is like, I've made it, I've thrown it out there. Why do I need to worry about it? So it's just kind of figuring out how you build that shared goal and kind of have that shared commitment to what you're doing.
Great, great. I think that you are very you have lots of the experiences for dev advocate and the dev community and the community marketing community managers or something like that. So I strongly recommend every developer guys they should attend your session on the day. I think. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, this interview session that has only 15 minutes and the time's up.
All right.
I'd like to bring this session to a close.
Thank
Okay.
you so much for
Yeah.
having me. It was great to speak
Yeah.
to you.
Thank you. I had a great time talking with you. So thank you again for your time. And I hope you also, will enjoy the DevRelCon Tokyo 2021 with us. See you again soon.
Thank you. I'll see you in
Yeah.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I'd like to announce again our conference, DevRelCon Tokyo 2021, will be held on June 5th. Why don't you save the date? Thank you again, everyone. See you at the conference. Bye for now.